on, I believe it's Tuesday, the 11th of March of 2025. I'm going to read to y'all 29 quotes for people who are struggling to choose their profession, designed to inspire, motivate, guide them through the process. And in a way, this is just motivational quotes for people who want to do the work but don't quite know where to start. That's okay. So the first quote we're going to start with is, "Your career is a choice you make once. It's a journey you discover every day." And what this means is that, I might have misread. It says, "Your career is not a choice you make once, but a journey you discover every day." And part of that is because with each day you learn more about yourself, you learn more about other things, and just the world in general. So it makes sense that you will discover a bit of it each day of your life. The second quote is from George Eliot. "It's never too late to be what you might have been." And part of that is because people think that the time has already passed. There's no way they could be the dream they desire, which is never the case. It honestly determines how much you're willing to put in the effort and the time, and how much you're willing to learn and potentially change a method that you're doing that maybe it worked in the past but is no longer working for you in the present. Our third quote is, "Do not be afraid to start over. It's a chance to rebuild what you want." And part of this is because people, they treat their businesses as their children, that it has to be this way and not something else, or they really had this idea of maybe a product and it's just not going the right way, and because they're so focused on it, they're prohibiting themselves to grow and move forward in life. Our first quote is from Steve Jobs. "Your work is going to fill a large part of your life, and the only way to truly be satisfied is to do what you believe is great work." I feel like that one's pretty straightforward, in my opinion, of if you're going to let your work be a large part of your life, you have to know that it's going to be great work, and it's not just going to be busy work per se. Because if you view it as busy work, that's how your mind's going to view it, and that's how you're going to feel towards it, and you're going to be like, why am I doing this, you know? And I think a lot of people don't consider mindset or viewpoint towards their job to really affect their work, but it is, because if you're constantly complaining about your work, well, then that's all you're going to view it as. That you're just going to view it as something that you have to do, or the people are not great around you, which is not always the case. Maybe in one circumstance, yes, or maybe that's just the type of person, but it's not. Your whole career is not evolved around one person. And just because in one instance you persevered, you view them as maybe not the best person, that doesn't necessarily define them, and you shouldn't let other people prohibit you from doing your work and doing what you want to achieve. Our next quote is, "Follow your passion. It will lead you to your purpose." And I think this is because we all have an idea in our minds, or a few ideas, and I honestly truly believe if you're given an idea, you should follow that within reasonable circumstance, depending on the idea, of course. Because personally, I think God gave us all an idea that only we can truly achieve and accomplish, and if we don't follow that, then it feels like we're not where we're supposed to be. Oh, I've noticed we have a comment from Sydney saying, "You're so pretty. I love your content. Praise the Lord." Thank you for sharing that you enjoy this content. I very much appreciate it. I'm not sure when you join in this live stream, but we're currently reading 29 quotes to inspire individuals who want to have a career, but they're just not quite sure what they're doing or how to get to that ideal career that they want. And if you have any live feedback, feel free to put that in. Even if I went past the quote that you're talking about, that's completely fine. If you remember the number, feel free to add the quote number as well. So now we'll be on quote 6, and it's another one from Steve Jobs. And it says, "The only way to do great work is to love what you do." And I feel like this follows into the 5th one of where it's talking about follow your passion, because like I mentioned with the 5th one, we're all given ideas, or even just like one idea that only we could truly achieve because we have a certain way that we view it, a certain vision that goes along with this idea, and we truly love it because in our minds we see it exactly how it could be, and because we could see it how it could be, we could transform it into what it is on Earth, what it could be on Earth. I believe that made sense. If it didn't, feel free to ask for clarification, because I think my train of thought went a little sideways there. All right, so our 7th quote. "Choose a job you love and you will never have to work a day in your life." Part of this is because it won't feel like work. It wouldn't feel like work because you're doing something that you enjoy and that you most likely would have done in your free time as a hobby anyways, because of how much you enjoy it and how much love you have towards it. Because love is like desire, how much you desire to do the work for this. Sydney made a comment, I believe, to quote number 6 of when I was asking, does it make sense? And he says that it makes sense. So if anyone agrees with him, feel free to put it in the comments below after the live stream if you're viewing afterwards. And if you disagree, feel free to state why you disagree, because I would love to hear your viewpoint. All right. Quote number 8 from Albert Schweitzer. I should have looked up how to pronounce his last name before this. I apologize. But the quote says, "Success is not a key to happiness. Happiness is the key to success." So similar to I feel like the past 3 quotes, if you're not doing something you have a passion for or something that you honestly enjoy, well, it's going to feel miserable while doing it. And happiness being the key to success is because when you're doing something you enjoy constantly, like me sharing advice with others, this is part of the reason why I have a YouTube channel, the success would just come. All of a sudden, everything would just make sense. Like everything will align up, the money will be there, the resources, the finances, it will all appear. You just have to know, in a sense, of how to share, maybe not initially share your product, but how to create your product and give it to those that it's designed for. All right. Number 9. You are not a product of your circumstances. You are a product of your decisions. And this is true because there's so many people that have been given similar circumstances, like maybe their upbringings wasn't so great, or even people born into wealthy families. But then the decisions they make determine their lives, determine who they are today. It determines if they kept that wealth from their family or if they lost it based on their decisions, or if someone didn't grow up in the best neighborhood per se, if they stayed in those similar circumstances, or they live a different life now, a life that probably others wouldn't expect them to live. It's because of the choices they make. And maybe part of those decisions they make were dependent on their circumstances, but not initially, because there were others given the same circumstances that don't have the same results. All right. Quote number 10. Your career is a reflection of your choices, so choose wisely. It's similar to quote number 9 of where your circumstances are not a product of you, but your decisions are. And it's just viewing, that's why they say, in a sense, it's like when you make choices, don't just make it to make it, but are you making it with, do you have all the information you need to make that decision before you finalize it? That's something to think about. Quote number 11. If you do what you love, you will never work a day in your life. And I feel like that goes to similar to the Steve Jobs quotes that we had earlier, and quote number 5, 7, and 8. I feel like that ties in well to those. Quote number 12, the right job will feel like a calling, not just a paycheck. I feel like that ties more into quote number 7 of where you choose a job that you love, and you'll never work a day in your life, similar to that one. Quote number 13, it's okay to not know exactly where you're going as long as you're moving forward. So that's a main part of this video, is I'm sharing quotes for people in their careers right now, in their professions, and they're not quite sure, like you have an idea of what you want to do, but you're not quite sure what's the next step. That's okay. Try different things. Keep moving forward. Don't just sit still. Of course, there's moments where it's okay to sit still and like reflect or take the time to yourself, but don't stay in the stillness, because the world around you will continue to move. It's like how the earth is constantly spinning around its axis and we don't even notice. Yeah, we still experience day and night, and we still experience our lives, depending on how you choose to experience it. Or not depending, however you choose to experience your life, I shall say. Quote number 13. It's okay to not know exactly where you're going as long as you're... Oh, I just read that one. I apologize, everyone, about that. We're supposed to be on quote number 14. My bad. So quote number 14 says, you don't have to have it all figured out. Every step is part of the journey. And I feel like that's a big one, because everyone wants to have like the blueprint already figured out. But most of the time you'll be the first one to do what you're doing. And so how can you know exactly each step of the process? You can't. Not even quote unquote the best of the best could tell you exactly what each step would be. They could make predictions, but those predictions can't be wrong. Quote number 15. Take risks. Be bold. Don't be afraid to fail. I think a big part of this is don't let your fears prohibit you from achieving your dreams. Quote number 16. Sometimes you have to take the leap, even if you don't know where you'll land. And so that's part of where you don't have to figure everything out. You could just do it one step at a time. Quote number 17. Don't follow the crowd. Follow your own path. And part of that could be, the crowd could be leading to an edge of a cliff. And if you follow your path, you would just be leading yourself down to the mountain. Or it's how there's this image between like heaven and earth, of where you see a lot of people going to hell. Not heaven and earth, hell and heaven. And I've like seen on Instagram and TikTok of where there's a lot of people taking the path to hell, and then there's a few on the path to heaven, in a sense, is the first thing that I thought of when I read this quote. Number 18. It's never about being perfect. It's about being persistent. And part of this is because it's, in a way, looking at all the inventions that have been created. They necessarily weren't made on the first version of the invention. It took some trials and some errors and some test runs and seeing what works, what doesn't, what works together. Maybe this works with this piece, but once you change that other piece, all of a sudden it doesn't work anymore. And you have to figure out why and what will work and the final design of it, in a sense. All right. Quote number 19. I caught myself there. Your career is an extension of your identity. Make it a reflection of your true self. So part of this is when you think of professional branding, it should be a credible image of your skills, your personality, and your values of where you stand, representing of who you are and where you stand in your career and life. That's how I would view that, is like think of your professional branding. And are you having it view like it's your true self, or are you faking to be someone? Quote number 20. Don't choose a job based on money. Choose it based on passion. So that one's quite similar to the previous ones we had. Quote 21. The secret to success is doing what you love, even if it's hard. And so I feel like you see that a lot in athletes, and seeing which ones go pro and which ones just stay in like college athletes or just stayed as high school athletes. It's like part of it could be that they didn't want to, but part of it's also that they didn't want to put in the work for it. Okay. Quote number 22. If you're not sure where you're going, just start moving. Direction is often founded through action. And part of this could be that you could be somewhere and you're not sure where you are, but even in order to find someone that knows the directions, you're going to have to move and walk around until you even find someone to tell you the directions. And even in that case, they might not even know, and so then you'll have to move and walk around and ask someone else. But if you just stay put, most likely someone's not just gonna come to you, unless it just happens to be. Of course, there's circumstances where that could happen, because not everything is so concrete and written in stone. All right, quote 23. The best way to predict your future is to create it. And interesting enough, that was said by Abraham Lincoln. Now, I don't know how true that could be, just based on, well, they did have pen and paper, and they did document something, so maybe someone did document that quote of him from President Lincoln. I don't know why I said earlier, interesting enough, that it was quoted by him, but yeah, I guess it is. Okay, quote number 24. You don't have to know exactly what your future holds. Start with what you love and the rest will unfold. I think part of this is also don't live in the future, because it would take you away from living in the present moment and focusing on the now versus what could be. And what could be may not come if you're not doing the work that you need to do in the present moment. Quote number 25. Do what you love and you'll find the courage to do it every day. 26. You are not defined by your job, but your passion can be. So what are you letting yourself basically achieve, go after? Are you prohibiting yourself depending on what your current career is, what your current occupation is? All right. Quote 27. It's okay to not, hold on. Yeah. It's okay to take your time to figure out what you want to do. Life isn't a race. And that's basically meaning that I would say don't look at other people's life as an example of what yours could be if you're going to criticize yourself, because that will just tear you down and not build you up. If you're going to analyze other people's lives and implement that into your own life. Do it as a way of where it brings you up and it pushes you, and you want to continue doing what you originally wanted to do, even if it changes a little bit. Okay, quote 28. Your profession is not just what you do, it's who you become. It's like the saying of the 5 or 4 people you surround yourself with often, not necessarily daily, but often, you will become the 5th or 6th person of that group, because you will eventually adapt to their methods and to their lifestyle. Finally, quote 29. Choosing a career is less about finding the perfect job and more about discovering your purpose. All right. With that being said, choosing the right profession can be a challenging decision in one's life. We've covered a decent amount of quotes from a variety of people. Most of them were anonymous, with that being said, or unknown. And with that being said, take this video as a moment to the time to reflect on your life and where you're standing at the moment, and where you would like to take, which direction you would like to take from where you're currently at. What's your next step, in a sense? With that being said, before you click off of today's video, be sure you leave a comment down below if you have any questions that were not answered or any clarifying things that you would like to be clarified on. Till then, we'll see you next time. Bye, y'all.